It's about 6:32. We'll call this June 14th Commission meeting to order. At this point in time, Jessica Hall, if you please will give the invocation and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening. Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for this day because truly this is the day that the Lord has made and we're rejoicing and glad in it. We thank you for taking care of us and bringing us to this appointed place at this appointed time. We ask that you would just lead and guide our commissioners as they go forth to handle business that's concerning this community. We also ask that you would just give us grace and mercy and that you would just help the decisions that are being made for this community be decisions that we will be able to accomplish in a short while and also to live with in a long while. We ask that you would lead us and guide us and protect us. Take care of our first responders as they take care of us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Jenny.
Mayor Jameson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jones.
Here.
Commissioner James.
Here.
Commissioner Lavin.
Here.
Commissioner Williams.
At this point in time, a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
And I'll second it.
I have a first and second. Any comments, anything? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, agenda passes. On the minutes, I'd like to do each one of them separately. So if we could just have a motion for the 24th, we'll go to the process and then hit the other two.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the May 24th, 2018 Commission meeting minutes.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it passes.
I move that we pass the May 21st, 2018 special commission meeting.
That was May 31st, correct?
31st, I beg your pardon.
Second.
I have a first and a second to pass to approve the May 31st special meeting, commission meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. May 31st commission workshop. Go
So
ahead.
moved we approve May 31st commission workshop.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the May 31st commission workshop minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. At this point in time, we will entertain citizens' requests and comments, and these are for what, Jenny? I've already talked to him. Yeah, yes, I saw it, yes. For issues not on the agenda, please limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, while David's on his way to the podium, I just want to let you know I've known David a long time. Really all the 10 years that he's been at the DOT as general counsel. He is the one that produces, in his office, produces a lot of the contracts that we execute on each year on an annual basis. I think it's important for your attorney to comment on who's in the courthouse and who's not, and who you know, and who would make a good candidate for circuit judge. And I've known David for a very long time. His extensive experience and his personal background lend himself to be a tremendous candidate in this regard. So I just wanted to relate that to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Again, my name is David Robertson. I'm running for circuit judge in the 8th Judicial Circuit. And for those of you that don't know, that's a 6-county area. It includes Alachua, Baker, Bradford, Union, Gilchrist, and Levy counties. The seat is open because we have a judge that's reached the mandatory retirement date. The primary election is August 28th, and this will be the only contested circuit court race on your ballot. Just in opening, I'd like to point out that it is very, very important who we put on the bench. A lot of us, when we go to the polls, we're going to vote for governor and our commissioners, and sometimes we forget about the judiciary. A judge can more readily impact the community and your individual lives, in many cases more so than the governor or the legislator. So important who we put on the bench. I've been a lawyer practicing in North Florida for a little over 20 years. The first 10-plus years of my career, I was in private practice, worked my way up and became a partner and owner of the business. So I know what it's like. I've got some experience running a business. I understand the responsibility of meeting a payroll. My experience in private practice included matters in family law, child custody, real estate transactions, environmental resource permitting with the Swanee River Water Management District. I was a city attorney for a little over 2 years, and significant litigation involving sexual harassment, age discrimination, consumer protection, warranties, and class action litigation throughout the state of Florida. Those are just to name a few. I've litigated in state court, federal court, and I've had a number of cases before the Florida First District Court of Appeal. As Mr. Walker mentioned, currently and for the last a little over 10 years, I've served as the General or Chief Counsel for the Florida Department of Transportation's District 2 region. That's an 18-county area across really north-central Florida. It stretches from Nassau County in the far northeast all the way over to Madison, down to Levy, and then back across the state to St. Augustine. So it's a very, very large area. As a general counsel, I advise the district secretary and the district executive committee on implementation of our district's annual work program, and for the last 4 years, that has exceeded $1 billion in terms of value. I also serve on the Office of General Counsel's statewide leadership team, and I personally litigate cases on behalf of the department in the areas of condemnation. I also draft and negotiate complex agreements regarding the development of transportation systems, and those agreements usually are between the Department of Transportation and local governments or developers. I manage an office of 8 attorneys and 4 paralegals, and the litigation in my office on an annual basis averages around $60 to $80 million in value. I also wear another hat. I serve in the Florida Army National Guard. I have over 17 and a half years of service. I continue to serve. I hold the rank of major, and my current duty assignment is the command judge advocate for the largest major subordinate command in the Florida Army National Guard. I do a lot of focusing right now on domestic and international operational law. Domestic operational law is when we get put on state active duty for hurricanes or, for example, the 2012 Republican National Convention. My duty really is advising the commander on our troops and how they support our first responders, whether it be law enforcement or medical personnel in those emergencies. When we're deployed overseas, of course, that involves, the international law involves interpretation and advice on the rules of engagement, how we engage the enemy and under what circumstances. It also involves the analysis and interpretation of international agreements between the United States and the country, wherever we are. My experience includes an overseas deployment to a combat zone in support of the global war on terrorism. We were in East Africa, and we were responsible for 12 countries. And our primary role there was to serve as a quick reaction force to hopefully prevent a reoccurrence of what we saw with the American Embassy in Benghazi, Libya. I have been a resident of Alachua County for over 17 years. My wife Bonnie and I have 6 children. The 3 oldest children have all 3 of them have graduated from high school in Alachua County. Our 2 youngest girls we adopted internationally from the country of Guatemala, and they just completed the 6th grade. I'd like to highlight a few, not all of them, but just a few endorsements that I'm very proud of from our first responders. Your Chief of Police, Joel DeCourcy, has endorsed my candidacy for circuit judge, as well as the sheriffs of Baker, Bradford, Union, Gilchrist, and Levy counties. And some chiefs of police of some other municipalities have endorsed my candidacy as well. I thank you very much for the opportunity to be here tonight and speak, and I hope to earn your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, 6 kids qualifies him to be a circuit judge.
I don't know. I was going to sort of call into question judgment. So,
well, I've got 7 youngins.
Well, no, I've already.
And it's funny. That's the most common question I get on the campaign.
So, no, we're good. Anyone else?
Hi there, Ross Ambrose, resident of High Springs. I saw it was a short agenda, so I thought I'd come for the whole meeting. But I've been busy as a business owner here in town, and I just wanted to come as you get into the budget process in the coming months to say some things right now. First of all, I think the use of the fire assessment to come up with funds to potentially move to advanced life support is a great use. That mechanism of funding, other than using general tax revenue, is a lot more equitable. That's great. That's nice. Citizens are going to see that as an increase, but they're going to see what they're getting for their money. I actually, as a resident and a business owner, I'd like you to raise my taxes. I mean, seriously. I look at my tax bill and I look at how little actually goes to the operating funds and the general revenues of the city. And the city, a number of years ago, cut back the tax rate. And yes, we're growing, and yes, we're building houses, and yes, we're having impact fees. But what I constantly see is we created a condition where I look through the paper and there's someone else there's another job at the city. And it's not because we're adding a position, it's because someone's left, because we weren't able to fund those positions to keep a living wage and we're losing intellectual capital by having an incredible turnover in our city staff. But you're also losing opportunities with businesses. My business is absolutely crippled right now because Windstream sees no need, because there's no competition to provide real high-speed internet in this community. I can't use software programs because they're based in the cloud. And the line to my office is still copper, and it's 50 years old, and Windstream says they have no intention of replacing it right now because it only impacts 4 buildings. So there you go. I'm 12 megs is what I can get to run my business. I route 9 trucks over 6,000 square miles. You know how much mapping I do? And I can't do it. And I know I'm not the only business owner that has that issue. But also, aside from city staff that you're really funding, and I assume the budget that you're going to be proposing rectifies some of that. I know you've got the study in hand. But also, are we going to have money so that we can really have a web presence that represents the city? Because we don't right now. And yes, it's a lot of money, and whether you want to contract it out or you want to have somebody in-house, we don't really have a public relations officer, and we rely on people through the fire department to do that, and what goes out on social media or when a water pipe breaks. And I'm just saying, I'd be willing to pay some more money as a resident who owns a home here in the city. And so, you know, we've grown, everything's gotten more expensive, and really you've all managed to pay for that with the incremental increases in our tax base. But maybe at some point, you know, the budget needs to reflect what the priorities are and what citizens are asking for. And I don't think you're lavishing anyone with anything. We're barely getting by in a lot of areas, and the citizens deserve a little more. And I'd be willing to pay a few dollars more on my tax bill. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll bring the citizens' requests to a close and go on to the agenda with new business. Item number 1 is consider the ordinance 2018-07, an ordinance amending the adopted fiscal year budget of the role. That's probably something you should read, didn't it?
I'm happy to do that, Your Honor.
I don't want to read it.
All right. I'll do I'll put it on read the title, I'll put it on the floor, and then I know Jennifer will have some words about it. There's ordinance 2018-07, an ordinance amending the adopted 2017-2018 fiscal year budget of the city of High Springs, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance 2018-07 as read by title only.
The major thing in this budget is we're actually reducing the budget by $355,000, and the reason is that $200,000, that's the farmer's market. We're not going to do that this year. It'll be next year. There's $100,000 we're not spending out of the Parks and Recreation, and the other amount is just small amounts here and there. But we have put into the budget $106,000 for the contingency. Yes? No?
Yeah, we have the contingency now. It's going up. We actually, on top of this first reading, because I don't know if you want to talk about what happened this week, with the mowing.
I'll get to it.
That was, once he gets through the first part of it, and you all vote on it, we do have the second, we do have, for the second reading, we need some additional adjustments to reflect, the mowing part of what the city's gonna, what we've changed, and as well as, the wall space. So, we want to finish this.
Sure, yeah. Basically, we've been extremely frugal this year, as we will next year, and we have not spent all our money. We put some of it in contingency. We've reduced it because of not spending some of the grant money, that mainly because of the farmer's market and that. And so, we're doing great, to be honest with you.
A couple of the main things that are in this budget amendment is, we talked about, I believe Mr. Booth brought it up a couple meetings ago, the radios that were mandated, that were unfunded. So both the fire and the police radios have been budgeted in here. So they've been accounted for. The other big thing is, do you want to talk about the paving and the backhoe?
Sure, the paving is for next year. We're buying the backhoe this year. So a lot of things that we were going to push off to next year, we're going to have to do this year, and we're saving more money. So we're doing very well.
We're buying the backhoe, right? We're not leasing?
No, we're not leasing it, we're buying it.
Okay.
We're buying it out. We will save $30,000 if we buy it straight out.
Right.
Okay, because I mean,
Yeah. And the old one then goes to the parks.
okay.
So that is kind of where, what the budget that we sent out. So I think they have to vote on the first reading, unless you have a question.
Well, no, we can ask the questions and so forth. We'll vote on this, and when the second one comes back, you can amend it, and it comes in.
Yeah,
just
and
like
this is, and the reason I brought the second reading, or this, because there's so much that I want to go over, that you don't have to vote on this one, you take it with you, but I want to have time for y'all to realize what the changes that were made.
Well, let me follow this one here. We're gonna approve this amended here.
Yes,
What
sir.
you're gonna give us is stuff for us to look at. That's gonna
And
be
that's going
voted
to be second
on.
reading.
Right, I just wanna make sure that's
Yes, sir.
clarified. This is stuff we're gonna get, and we will vote on it later.
2 weeks.
On this, okay. I just wanna make sure people understand that we're not ramming
But it
something.
needs to be discussed
Agreed.
tonight,
No, no.
because you can't be presented that at the next
Agreed,
meeting.
agreed. I just wanna make sure people understand we're not jamming something through. Any questions?
I've already tortured Jennifer. I've already been there and done my questions.
No, and I agree. I mean, I've asked, and, I mean, obviously, the first thing, you want to explain to everyone just real quick before we go, just this money in, money out stuff, because I think that's reflective in some of these numbers, just so people understand. We had talked about it a month ago, about it, and I think that shows in here. If you could just,
Are you talking about the grants?
yeah, just because that shows in here, so people are, because if you look at it, this, you go, holy smokes.
Yeah, so most of our grants are basically whatever they give us is what we spend. So you have a revenue and expenditures. The FERDAP grants, we will not get. There originally was budgeted $100,000 as revenue, and then $100,000 in Parks and Rec as an expenditure. But we will not find out until October if we get, and so that'll be the next fiscal year. So we went ahead and took those out. The other one is the farmer's market. We will not find out, which is $199,000, and that again was a revenue. And then in the farmer's market, it was the expenditure, and that is, we'll find out in December whether or not the county accepts the thing, the purchase of the railroad trails. So if that goes through, then all of that'll be in next year's budget. It'll be presented, hopefully, to go through. So that's the big reduction. And then, the big then expenditure reduction is the same thing, the other half of the FERDAP and then the farmer's market. And then there's little ones.
I mean, it's just, the numbers, I just want people to look at it, because it looks like a substantial difference. And it's just the moving
It's
of the money,
grants.
the grant money. So that's all, I just want to make sure we were aware of that.
No,
You good?
I've already talked to her.
Okay, good. Any other comments or questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, so do I have any motion on this one here? Or?
I will make a motion that we accept ordinance 2018-07. We approve, I guess is the word.
Second.
So I have a first and a second to approve the ordinance 2018-7 on first reading. Any other comments? Ginny, roll call, please.
Mayor Jameson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Passes, and the second reading will be in 2 weeks at the next meeting. Okay.
Thank you.
So are we going to discuss this now before we go to the next
Yes,
topic?
yes, please. So you want to go ahead and tell them what happened with their mowing?
Well, I could. I actually had that under me, but I'll go ahead and go through it. All right, we had a mowing contract, $55,000, and they didn't want to be responsible for signing in and out when they did it. We had a problem that we didn't believe that we were getting the services that we had contracted for, and they just opted out of the contract, period. Had a meeting with all the directors, and we looked at all the options. The next closest bid we had when we went out for bid was $100,000. So we went from 55 to 100,000. Talked to all the directors, and they agreed that they could do a better job if they had mowers. And so I've decided that the CRA will take care of the CRA district and buy a mower. Out of Wild Spaces, the parks will take care of the park area, and the cemeteries will take care of both the cemeteries and go ahead and mow those. And the David with Public Works will mow all the right of ways. And we can do that under the 55,000, so it's budget neutral. And get more work out of the people.
So we'll walk you through this. Okay, on the first page, is the adjustments in yellow. Most of it is Parks and Rec and the Civic Center. Are the big changes, the big adjustments up. The 106. The reason I highlighted that is with this budget, the second reading, it will have an additional money for the contingency, so it went from 100 to 106, and then we still have a little bit extra of current year Wild Spaces money to spend. And basically we budget 350, and with this we've budgeted all but 69, almost 70. Okay, the second page, and these are not going to be numbered because they're just pulled from the whole, these are the changes that we made, so I didn't copy the whole budget again, I just copied the pages that changed. So the second one, Commissioner Lavin, these are a couple that you had pointed out, the surcharge and stuff, we just made some adjustments on those. Then with our Wild Spaces money, we get matching, we have a matching grant that right now we're requesting, we bought the property, the lights, and the Civic Center, they will reimburse us 50% of that. So that's the $217,000 that's due back from the budget.
When's that happen?
Billing, Robert's getting everything, we're billing them. We'll probably have it next month.
In this budget year, is what you're saying? This
Oh,
will
yeah,
be
yeah,
within,
I'm good, we're ready to buy.
in the next-
We've already
okay.
paid for everything. We had to wait till we paid, the lights just got put up, and we're paid for them this week. So, okay, and then the next page, there's no highlights, and then the next page, it's just highlighted 0. In the previous budget, there was $5,000 that we were going to borrow from Wild Spaces, but we didn't need. We have actually, as I said, not used all of the Wild Spaces money in the current year. So we have it, and that will be a report. Robert and I are working on it, how much we received year, not just inception to date, and how much we spent. So we'll have that the first meeting in July, I believe. Or it might be the second, because I think we might be out the first. Okay, then the next page, which is Parks and Recreation, that's the staffing, and basically the money was there, but we've added a half position for the mowing, to help with the mowing. And then the next page, which it has some change, some true-up changes, but the big items are the capital outlay. So if you look on the page right behind it, it lists everything that the Parks and Rec is going to. Am I going too fast?
No.
Okay, so that's everything that that you'll see, it's either Wild Spaces is buying, or it was budgeted for Parks and Rec already. So like his truck, we can budget for Robert to have a truck. Then we're actually getting 2 mowers. One's a finishing mower for the fields, and then one's just a regular zero-turn. Finishing mower makes the fields look nice and pretty. Then a trailer to pull them, and then there's a Polaris that, since they only have the one vehicle, Polaris will let the other guy, the other truck, not having visibility. Right now we're paying fuel.
Okay.
And then the fencing and mulch is just some things that he did to finish up a couple of parks that were exceeded the FERDAP grant, so we're just finishing for this year. So that's the big changes for the Parks and Rec.
And so everything on that except the fencing and mulch came out of the Wild Spaces money? Is
And
that
the truck.
And the truck
And
up
the
top.
truck? Okay.
We are moving a fire truck to Parks and Recreation. It was one that the Public Works had, and we're just using on transportation, fixed it up, put a ball on the back, and they'll use it to tow around the motor. Also, they'll have another vehicle to get around it.
Jennifer, did you look at the Wild Spaces? I thought there was restrictions on the money as to how you could use it, I'm just doing this from memory, but I thought it was capital improvement projects only.
Yeah, and I believe that's all we have.
Okay.
The irrigation is part of the field. There is not, yeah, all this is capital. The stuff at the top on the page before that is not Wild Spaces.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
right.
So,
But the truck, is that with Wild
no,
Spaces?
that's it.
Well, it's not Wild Spaces. You don't
It's
have a
not-
list of
no,
licenses.
No, we never, that was budgeted with regular parks money.
Gotcha.
But the mowers and the Polaris and the trailer are okay to run under Wild Spaces?
Yes, because those are all capital items.
Okay.
And then the lights, and the land. And then, the other park is the Civic Center Park, and that was the other part that we're requesting the county for their 50% back. And that's on the next page. We spent $100,800.
That was the final on all the renovations over there.
Rounded up. And then we get to Public Works Facilities. And that basically shows the reduction from a one-time or 1.0 FTE to a 0.5, and that's going to be the cleaning person for this building, the police.
And other buildings as need be. We'll talk about the contract here a little bit.
But that's budget neutral because the money was already done, because the previous one has already left. Yeah. And then the next one is cemeteries, and that's where we put a service worker in to do the mowing with our cemeteries. And then we already had a three-quarter person. He can't do that, there's just no way. So they have now 1 3/4 adjusted the money some to accommodate the rest of the year. And then the next one is roads and streets. We added another whole position. We had a half position, we never filled it, so we made it a whole, and that's going to be enough. Most like the money is already in there, did not have to adjust that. The next page, it is where the contract services. If you remember in the one you looked at earlier that we had $75,000 in for the mowing for this year. This amount should finish out what we owe the old mowing company, so we were able to take one back. So instead of being 75, it's now 56. And then we added a mower to this, mower. And of course the backhoe and the and the next page just shows the detail of the capital outlay. And then the last major section that is changed is the CRA.
You can talk to him about it.
Oh, I can talk to him about it.
Eventually.
Oh, I can talk to him about it. We're not voting on this.
We have a
CRA meeting on
next
Thursday.
week.
So, all right, because it has to go to CRA first, but I can talk about it. But anyway, the other thing is that the CRA is going to do their part of the mowing. And so we bought a mower for the CRA, and that's not just for, it's for all their mowing. And then we just make some adjustments on that. I don't know if y'all have any questions, or you want to just digest all that?
We'll be voting on all of this as a final at the second reading, correct?
The only thing that I would add on this, when you start talking about the additional half person for the cleaning and the additional piece of people for the mowing, my concern is things come up and all of a sudden the person who's supposed to be mowing has to be over here helping with streets or something. Or the person who's supposed to be cleaning the buildings gets called over because they got to go do something. And so what happens is the things that we were contracting for, that if somebody was doing it, they may not get done. So we have to make darn sure we're diligent that the mere fact that the person who's cleaning is actually cleaning the Civic Center, cleaning in here, and is not getting pulled off to go do another job. The guy who's supposed to be mowing isn't going and helping on this one, and the grass gets up here. This is our responsibility. We can't turn around and blame the contractor because the contractor didn't do something.
Right.
So this is solely on our shoulders now, that if the grass isn't grown, it's going to be a personnel management deal to make darn sure. And we can't look at anybody else.
Right.
Okay, I mean, I'm good with it as long as we make darn sure the people are used exactly what they're supposed to be for. Because government has a way of sort of siphoning people over when something takes priority.
That's only the school board.
No comment.
Well, one of the things.
All right, let's move on.
One of the things too, I just want to add on that is that, tomorrow, David's got guys coming in and mowing tomorrow. 'Cause remember, we've got that Friday that.
I got it.
You've always got that extra day, so.
I just want to make sure because it's easy to clean the building, but I need somebody over here to do, it's easy to pull somebody. And I just want to make darn sure that, these people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, the mowing and the cleaning.
Trust me, the ladies here in this building will make sure that happens.
Okay, that's all. I just want to make sure that it doesn't go over and all of a sudden we're getting calls because they're not being, it's not being, the bathrooms in this bit. So I just don't want any phone calls. So, okay, so we'll discuss this in 2 weeks. Is that what you're saying, Lee?
We voted on in 2 weeks.
We voted in 2 weeks. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
All that work.
Just make it work.
I know, I'm just, yeah.
We're going to call this meeting to a, no, never mind. We'll move on to number 2. Mr. Walker.
Mr. Mayor, this is Resolution 2018/H, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of High Springs adopting a quasi-judicial procedure which governs all hearings and decisions, necessitating quasi-judicial decisions, and providing an effective date. Mr. Mayor, as you know, that any decision that comes before this board for planning and zoning that is specific to an application before you is quasi-judicial and not legislative. We currently obviously follow that, but we don't have a specific written procedure. We kind of have a methodology of what we do, but in talking with all the department heads, we thought it would be better to go ahead and formalize something, and that would be easier for you, it would be easier for planning and zoning board, and certainly citizens when they're coming before you to kind of know what the rules of the game are before they come. And then we're better able to make sure that we're treating everyone fairly because this is what we're doing. I'm happy to go through what's here. It's not too different than what we're actually doing in practice anyway. It just kind of spells out what the definitions are and exactly how we go through the procedure.
I've read through it and it makes sense to me. I was on code board for years, I understand. But having a clarification, so even when new people come on board, you have a way to hand them something. Because when I got appointed to the code board, it was like, oh, well, just sit down and start making decisions. So I think it's a good policy to have something written that can back up decisions, and you have to make sure it's legally defensible. So I'm sure it'll make your job easier.
Yes, it is, and something that hasn't come up here, but has come up in other cities, is people that want to be what we call party interveners. And so, and I guess it's come up to an extent here, but maybe the neighbors that are really upset by something, and they maybe want to hire their own attorney, they want to hire their own engineer, their own planner, and we didn't really have a mechanism in place other than just granting them more time, giving them some discretion, and this way we have a specific process for how we deal with that now so that everyone's getting a fair opportunity before the commission, but we're not winging it at things.
It was interesting to me, reading some over all of this. I wasn't aware of some of it, so it's good to have.
Yeah, it is. It's something, honestly, that doesn't come up that often. We don't have that many land use decisions that are going on right now, so I think it's just a good refresher for everybody because there are a lot of nuances to it.
Speak to that ex parte communication part as well, Courtney.
Sure. I guess most of you weren't on the commission at the time when we did this, but it was so long ago. But in these quasi-judicial procedures, the idea is that you are acting like the judge and that you have to be fair and impartial, which is different than in your legislative capacity, where you should probably still be fair and impartial, but it's not a requirement. And in doing so, you have to base your decision on the competent, substantial evidence that is presented to you as a governing body as a whole, so that anybody who wants to be a party intervener, the applicant, anyone else who's aggrieved, knows exactly what was presented to you and how to maybe support that, rebut that. And so in your legislative capacity, you're supposed to go out and get the feel of the community. How do people feel about a proposed alcohol ordinance? How do people feel about the noise ordinance? In these ex parte proceedings before under Florida law, if you were having conversations outside of the public meeting, the presumption was automatically that it was prejudicial to the applicant, and they could then contest the decision. The legislature recognized that it's very difficult, especially in small communities, to avoid ex parte communication on these applications. And so they passed a law that said that communities themselves can pass ordinances and resolutions that allow for ex parte communication if there's full and frank disclosure on the record and that it will no longer be presumed prejudicial. It still can be prejudicial, but the presumption isn't there anymore. And so probably in 2014, and Jenny has a better memory than I do, we adopted resolutions here that said that if you engaged in ex parte communication, you had to have a full and frank disclosure, and that we would no longer consider it per se prejudicial if you engaged in it. So the Department of No Fun over here still wishes that you would not engage in any ex parte communication. But if you do, we just need you to make that disclosure.
To make it known.
To make it known, right. And go from there. And the ex parte goes beyond just conversations that you've had with the applicant. It also involves going to the location of where that application is taking place. Doesn't mean you can't go, but that's something that you would also have to disclose.
I don't have any questions.
I think it's good that we've now got something in place that we can follow each and every time. And like you say, if there's any questions, it's documented. All you gotta do is go back and look at it. So,
Rock and roll.
yeah.
Do I have any movement on this? Any red?
Oh, and I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, there was a Scrivener's error that the mayor pointed out in the body of the resolution that we will adjust before it's executed.
Okay.
I move that we pass resolution 2018-H. Do I need to read the whole?
No.
And I said,
So I got a first and second to pass resolution 2000-H. Any other comments? Anything from the audience? Seeing none. Jenny, roll call, please.
Councilman Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Mayor Dennison?
Yes. Thank you for the work on that and getting it. I know we've talked about it for a while, so it's good to have it in place.
And that was a team effort. We sent that. The department heads looked at that as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Moving on, item number 3, discussion on the restrooms at Catherine Taylor Park.
I had that put on. I had a request by a commissioner to open up the bathrooms over there at Catherine Taylor. I know there was a resolution from the council to close those, and so I've just opened it up.
I was the one that asked the question as I walked around the Douglas community and been in the park there. I've been asked, can't we have the bathrooms open? Children are playing there. They're having a birthday party there. And I feel it's a reasonable request. In looking at all our parks, I'm a little astonished that our park hours are posted from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. That's a long time for a park to be open, and I certainly don't think we need to have restrooms open during all of those hours, but during reasonable times that children would be using the park. Having access to a bathroom would be a real asset. Having raised children that I took to parks, I know that it can be problematic if there is not a restroom there. So that's why I brought it up.
I have a question. To clarify what you're saying, are you saying open it from this hour to this hour all day, or open it when there's a specific function going on during the day?
Citizens came to me that were over in the park and feel like it should be open during the day when they're there using the park, playing. I think the way it happens now is they call the police department through the 911 system, and they get a hold of a police officer to come over and open it if they're having a birthday party or something. But feel like if the kids are playing, they should be able to use the restrooms.
Is that?
That's not correct.
That's what I thought.
Okay. They have to go through a permitting process.
Okay.
And then the bathroom's open. We do get those sometimes on a weekend, and we consistently tell them, has to go through a permit to have the bathrooms open on the weekend.
Who does the permitting, Deputy Chief?
That goes to the city.
Goes to the city.
And the fire department, the police department signs off. I believe Park and Recreation sign off. And we'd also be cautious about those restrooms being open all the time. There's some liability and drug issues.
That's right.
I understand that part. I'm just telling you what the citizens are asking, and I understand both sides of the puzzle, so.
And that it has come up before too. That's not the first time that has been asked by. It has come up before.
We did have an instance a few years ago at the Civic Center Park where a sexual battery occurred at one of those parks with the bathrooms open.
Give your name, Ross.
Ross Ambrose, citizen, and I also happen to chair the Parks Board, and I just came from a Parks Board meeting where we will be doing a presentation to you the 28th, I think is the date. One of the items on there is going to be a recommendation about bathroom facilities being available in general, and really this is a larger conversation that's been an issue for the city for a long time because first of all, you can construct a facility. Catherine Taylor would be an example of one that was done with minimal capital and a lot of volunteer work, but it was constructed in a way with very routine, normal materials, so it's easily vandalized and not easily secured. So was that really a good investment in terms of what we did for a restroom? Owning a portable toilet company, I can tell you right now, it's a really bad idea to make a toilet with regular rolls of toilet paper in a regular space. They commercially have big rolls for a reason. They don't fit in a toilet. And you avoid a lot of problems that happen. There are a lot of things that happen when the restrooms are available. A homeless person was just evicted from the sports complex in one of the restrooms. They'd actually set up a kitchen area in it. So that was discovered right before a couple of soccer games that someone had moved in. But a lot of the restrooms are just not used for appropriate purposes. So now you've got to balance making facilities available with what's going on. And right now, the city isn't generally staffed on Fridays. We don't have overtime, and we don't have people around on the weekends. So you create these facilities that are open that by the nature of their use, there's an element of privacy, and so that becomes a good place for a lot of different things to occur. So the larger issue as you look at making them available is how do you make sure they're not being misused? And you can't do that by just leaving them alone. You know, it's not as simple as just unlocking the door. So again, as you look at the budget in the coming year, you can make a decision about how you want to staff, the ability to monitor those facilities and make sure they're cleaned and they're used, or when they can be available and when they can't be. Because there are some parks that are just, there's a list of things that go on that it's much better that the doors are locked right now. It really isn't as simple as that. And I will say, as a company that we provide sanitation services. My company does. We do a lot with Suwannee County Parks and Recreation. We do with Suwannee River Water Management District, and we have a couple of other communities. You know, their solutions, Hamilton County, we do boat ramps, we do parks, basketball fields, that kind of thing, where plumbed facilities and buildings aren't open. What's available is a portable toilet. And that's easier to know there's only one person in there. That one person is still out of sight, but so that's what some communities have gone to make available. And not that I'm advocating, I'm just saying that's what happens, in other communities to solve those problems, where plumbed facilities just aren't going to work for a number of reasons.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I have issues with bathrooms being open. I also understand not being able to use the restroom if you have children. I really don't know what the answer is. I like Ross's suggestion. You have to consider the costs involved there, but I like that better than the restroom too.
We actually have used that solution over there at the park, Civic Center Park.
The Civic Center and the sports complex in the back.
Right.
Have been used, but those were funded with monies from some of the seasonal sports.
Mm-hmm.
And they went away at the end of seasonal sports. I know that Robert and some of the other members of the Parks Board have received quite a few complaints since they went away.
Yeah, I know.
Because people were using it.
Because there are kids at that park, at Civic Center Park, there's kids using that park all hours. I mean, there's always people working, using that facility.
I absolutely agree, and kids need to go to the bathroom.
Mhm. And then what happens is they run over to that little store
Yeah.
and use the bathroom over there. And in Douglas neighborhood, there isn't an option. There's no option. And I have to be honest with you, there's people that maybe don't even have plumbing living over there and probably are using facilities for that, you know.
We'll look at the budget. I'm about to say something, but we'll look at the revenues and we might tweak it a little bit. I honestly don't know what a porta potty costs, but I will certainly find out. Shouldn't be too hard. And we'll see if we can't put that in the budget.
Another thing that I mentioned at some time earlier is possibly having a parks person on the weekends because those parks get loaded with trash and everything, and we have nobody available to monitor or help with that.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
I think we're doing that, but I think still going in a porta potty is probably better than in open those other bathrooms. I don't like that solution. I think open bathroom should be there, but I know the damage that was caused in such a short time when they were open that we wouldn't have enough money in our budget to keep.
I understand. I understand. I just am bringing it here because I had citizens asking me, and I need to be able to give them an answer.
Come up with a solution, actually.
Well, we haven't come up with a solution, we've come up with some alternatives.
Alternative, there you go.
Well, and one of the other things that'll be presented probably on the 28th is probably a little bit of access to Wi-Fi, because it'd be really nice if someone could sit somewhere. If there was Wi-Fi available in the parks, means you can put up security. And so you can look at who's coming and going from buildings and get some sense that actually we haven't been able to do that. And every park that has a building in it has been broken into, vandalized. None that have. So it's an ongoing issue, but it's like, oh, well, we can't do that. That's why when you go up and down 441 at night, the lights are on at Memorial Park and on the concession stand. Because that has helped. That we just had to leave the lights on. If we turn the lights off, that building is broken.
Right.
Okay, so let's just make sure we have some direction on this one here. You'll just research it, see what it would cost.
Absolutely, and if so, it'll go into the
And then
budget, and then you vote.
And then we can bring it in and say, I prefer that. I'd rather not open up the buildings. I do understand the need for a bathroom. I have grandkids, but I think you got to strike a happy medium. So I think that would be an option as opposed to opening them up, because I think, it just wouldn't work. So, yeah, if you'll look at that and bring it back and see what it would cost to do that, I think that's.
I think, I think that's a great idea.
Okay, good enough. So you'll just bring that in, Mr. Booth, and
Yes, sir.
and then we can go from there. And good enough. At this point in time, we'll have the.
I emailed you last week that Mr. Interior has appealed the decision of the court, and his appeal, his brief would not be due until early July, and we anticipate based on past patterns that they will probably ask. So it might be a little bit of time before we see that, but we're still confident in our position there, but we'll certainly keep updated on that. And the court has still not set a new trial date. welcome this. He's not opposed to it.
Okay.
That's it.
Mr. Walker? Anything further? You good? Mr. Booth?
Oh, I got a number of things. The budget is complete, except for a little bit of tweaking of revenue. It appears that the raises will have absolutely no impact on the budget next year. That has to do with the increase in revenues that we're going to get from property. I put it there, and we're the second highest in the county. If you'll notice that the other cities and county are quite low, and a lot of that has to do with the additional taxes that have been taken off. That's the homestead exemption. So that you'll get pretty soon. We're doing a contract for the buildings. That is the Civic Center and the old schoolhouse. And many of the nonprofits, although we love them, they haven't been taking care of the building, and that was evident in the carpet that when they left was absolutely filthy. We love our elder care, we love giving away food, but we're going to demand they're clean when they're finished. We know elder care gets money, and so some of that money has to either go into cleaning or they're going to have to clean it up themselves, because it's not fair to our citizens who are paying taxes to pay after or to look after them. That's the way I feel.
You can't get like a standing deposit.
That's what we're about to do.
You get a standing deposit. If you got to use it, then you'll have to maintain that deposit.
That
again.
is absolutely correct. That's what the contract.
Mr. Walker, would that be something that
I think
you
they're
could do
working
that?
on
Like
it.
if you did a $250 deposit, it cost you $175 to do a cleanup, you would have to replace that to get it back to the tubes, something like that. But that's, I mean, to me, that's what I would do. If you clean it, then you don't lose any money.
Right, and Courtney is doing that contract, and it'll be to you pretty soon.
Okay.
Does everybody understand? Does that make sense?
Sounds good to me.
You clean it and leave it the way it is, you don't lose any money. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't clean it, you have to pay the cost.
That one,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I talked about the projects. On the 20th next week, we have a pre-construction contract for A1, and that project should start in about 2 weeks, and I'll be gone most of the time out there.
That the ponds?
No, that's actually the
That's the sewer.
sewer system.
Sewer.
The Camp Kalakwa project will be done next week, and that'll start up. And so that's finished. All right, I have a problem with the $700,000 that we didn't spend on the A1 project, and Swanee River wants to roll that into the A2 project. And so we will, we're working on the details now, but the $700,000 has to stay with the sewer project, not the sewer plant expansion. And so we will be doing A2 in the next few months.
A2 is what? Just describe A2.
Where is it?
A2 is the same thing as A1, only it has another 150 homes.
Okay, I just want to make sure when people, when they hear the
Different
A1,
section of the
A2, they
city.
understand what's
Yeah.
going on.
And so I'm negotiating at this time with Swanee River. What we need to do, and what we're said, the impact fees will design a plant, and Swanee River then will fund that plant. And I want to make very sure that they are going to fund before we spend any impact fees. Because we have already bought plans for one already, and so 2 of them will get both of us going. So I want to make sure that this is in stone. There is a League of Cities meeting in Hollywood, and I promote that. I think it's a great time for the commissioners to meet other commissioners, talk about problems, how they've solved problems. There are some good classes there. I think it's money worth spent. I would like to see as many commissioners go. I have to, one caveat, the commissioner has agreed to drive, but if other commissioners go with her, please don't talk about this.
Got it.
So, I can't go. I'm sorry, I love that meeting and great dinners, but I have projects I have to do. And if I'm not here watching them, when they cover it up and they're not correct, they're there forever. When they break, they're ours. So I need to be out there. Maybe with a cane, but we'll be out there.
We can do this.
And that's about it. We're doing great. Staffs, we're all playing in the sandbox, and we're not spending money. And I didn't ask Ambrose to come up here and talk about the raises, but that was. But we have that locked in because we're just a revolving door with our employees because Walmart pays more than we do. And so I'm pretty adamant about that too. And our directors. I mean, I'm asking our directors to be project managers along with their other jobs because they're doing all these other projects. They're having to fix some of the stuff as we do it. And so there's a lot of work going on. And I'm kind of proud of it. No, I'm not kind of proud of it. I am proud of it. And I'm going to law school.
What?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's all we need.
Yeah, that's all.
You done?
I'm done.
Nancy?
At our last CRA meeting, we did not set up a date for another meeting, and we've got an agenda here that Christina's put together for a meeting next Thursday night. Is it next week? Yeah, it's next week.
Yeah, it's next
So
week.
just
Next
making
Thursday.
sure that we can have a quorum, that everybody can do this meeting, because we have some important work to do and some dates to get set up.
And I'll be at that meeting. There is some concerns about the grants that are being given out.
6 o'clock.
And one you approved, which may be inappropriate, but there are some people asking for grants that I'm not sure the county really ever signed off on. And we'll talk about that during the CRA.
Is Byron going to be here for you? Because there's a chance I may not. Is Byron going to be here? Would there be at least 4? Everybody else is? He won't be here. Okay, so I'll make sure I try to.
Do we need to move
We
it
need to
then?
find another date.
No, I mean I can let you know it the next day or so.
Because we could maybe do a Tuesday?
No, Tuesday don't work for me.
No, okay.
Might work for everybody else, but it don't work
What
for
day,
me.
Linda?
So I mean we can keep it the 21st, and I'll, like I said, I'll do what I need to do.
Okay.
I'll do it.
So Jenny, can you check with Commissioner Williams to see if he'll be able to get here? You will?
On the 21st, I'll
Yeah.
do it.
Okay,
All right.
okay. All right. Thank you.
Anything?
Quiet tonight.
You're quiet tonight. There you
Yeah,
go.
I'm quiet tonight.
Linda?
Nancy and I had the opportunity to attend the Florida League of Cities. I don't remember the acronym.
The Elected Officials Institute.
Right. This past weekend down in Jupiter, and I highly recommend Florida League of Cities and anything they do. It's the first one was just a one-day up in Tallahassee that we went to, but this one we went Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And they put you to work, and you learn a lot, and they give you a lot of resources to be able to contact somebody if you do have questions. It was fast-paced, but it was excellent. And I would hope that I might be able to attend the one in August. We'll have to wait and see. But it was very interesting. Well, whatever was paid to attend was well worth it.
Yeah.
So we learned a lot.
That it? I'll just simply say what I say most every time up here is I'm very pleased with the progress that we have with the infrastructure. and the grants and getting the money and rolling it over and moving along from the infrastructure standpoint from water and sewer and projects. So I think everyone to be commended, city staff and Mr. Booth and everything else along those regards. The city will be in a better position years from now because of this, and so I just always try to make sure that people understand that. Jenny?
Yes, we have two things. I just wanted to talk to Commissioner Williams that he will be looking for meetings.
Okay.
Also, on the latest studies, they won't know as soon as possible.
Okay.
What's the deadline?
I think it's the 19th, I believe.
Hotel is the
Yeah.
19th.
Yeah, the
Conference
19th.
is the hotel.
Yeah, it
Conference
is.
is on the first day, so, okay. That's all I've got. Anything else?
I
Motion to
make a
adjourn?
motion that we adjourn.
So moved. Everybody have a good evening.
I like